What up, everybody? I hope you're having a great Wednesday. I've been looking to do a video lately about something different. I don't want to do just the plain old Sandy Hook, Wade's, identity being stolen, or talking about ISIS and ISIL, or talking about Sandy Hook as whatever. I don't really want to do that kind of video today. What I want to do a video about is unusual, even for me. And I've thought I saw it all, thought I've heard it all, but this one proved to me that there are still things that yet to be discovered. This is an article on Deadspin Sports, and I think it comes from Jezebel. It's called "A Chat with Malcolm Brenner, Man Famous for Having Sex with a Dolphin." Now, this gentleman, Malcolm, we'll just call him Malcolm Brenner, is his name. He had sex with a dolphin, and there is a short documentary made about it now that's out, and Deadspin or Jezebel interviewed him, and he was quite open and honest about his relationship. I want to just highlight some of the things he said. You can find this on Deadspin Sports. I suggest you go there. I'll leave a link to this, because some of the stuff he said was so goddamn out there that I'm going to read it to you, and then you have to read this for yourself, because it's unbelievable. So what he basically asserts is that he has zoophilia, which is a love of animals. I don't know if it's like bestiality. I don't know. But it's a love of animals, and, some zoophiliacs, I guess you would call them, are into children. There's nothing funny about being into children. I don't mean that. I just mean most of them are. He says he's not. And, gosh, I tend to believe him, because when you read this article, it's, let me just read some of it. So, in the documentary, you talk about figuring out that you were attracted to animals at an early age with a Disney cartoon at age 5. Then your family dog, Miss Clavel, at age 11. But Miss Clavel wasn't interested? Pretty much no. My mom bred her, but I didn't have what it takes. Okay. Now you think that's funny, but he actually gets into the psychology of all this. And during this period, you were physically and sexually abused by a psychiatrist. Now this is the part that I really find interesting for conspiracy theorists. The gentleman who molested him when he was a kid was a therapist. Let me read this to you. It's a rather strange field called orgonomy. The founder is a man named Wilhelm Reich. It was one of the students that molested me. He was one of Reich's students that molested Malcolm. Reich has had this school of psychotherapy in which everything was sexualized, where sexuality was the life force of the universe, responsible for gravity and light. Treatment involved a very harsh kind of physical therapy. Now, if you know anything about Wilhelm Reich, he had all of his stuff seized by the government, and everyone said it's because he was onto this orgone energy, blah, 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 but it seems like to me he was a pedophile. The particular physical therapist that I was treated by was, it turns out, this is Malcolm talking, someone who mistreated literally hundreds of children and adult patients. My brother, it was one of the people who still follows this field of therapy, has done research and become really horrified at this guy's misdeeds. Since the field of and this is the question, since the field of psychotherapy revolves around sexuality, would patients generally become to those therapists with issues related to sex? That was the question to Malcolm, and he said, I was taken to my therapist because I had a difficult birth. In orgonomy, and I know I'm pronouncing that incorrectly, I don't know why I can't pronounce that correctly. When something happens to you, you repress your feelings about it, it shows up in the form of tension in your body, and you investigate these neuroses and treat them through the body. But this was done in a very painful and invasive way. It was not a pleasant experience. When did you start linking your zoophilia to these experiences of abuse? Not until much later on. Not until I became skeptical of Reich's theories in my 30s, when there was just overwhelming amount of evidence that was Reich was not a hero that everyone thought he was. And this was after your relationship with Dolly. Now, Dolly is the name of the porpoise, the dolphin that he banged. Yeah. Now, this is where it gets kind of funny. I mean, he was abused sexually by that Wilhelm Reich school of psychotherapy where everything was sexualized. That's terrible. But some of this stuff is just, it's just crazy. So let me just read it. What was your relationship with Dolly? Oh wait, and what was your relationship with Dolly essentially? And that was after your relationship with Dolly, right? After he had gone to, before he'd gone to therapy, and this was after. Or no, excuse me, it was before he had come to the grips with the fact that the Wilhelm Reich stuff was crazy, and that was and after he had had his affair at 19 years old, 20 years old with Dolly the dolphin. Okay. So he gets down here and he starts talking about Dolly. This is a question that I found fascinating that they asked. What was it about Dolly that attracted you? In the documentary, you talk about how she seemed attracted to you, initiating physical contact, running her teeth gently down your arms and legs, rubbing her genitals on your body. That didn't happen initially. The water was too cold when I first got to the park. But Dolly was a very unique dolphin because she was allowed to perform with a riverboat. Blah, 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 U.S. Navy, open water work. She was very talented. Yeah. Slut. I think I am. Now, they asked him why he was in the park initially with Dolly the dolphin, and the question was, you were in the park for a photography project, right? And this is where it gets good. Yes, I was taking pictures for a writer's book. The first physical contact happened probably 3 months after I got there, so probably from November to late January. How did it feel after she touched you? Did you immediately start thinking about initiating a sexual relationship with her? I felt very embarrassed, Malcolm says. I was so uncomfortable. I was not comfortable with my own zoo sexuality. I didn't want it to be zoophilia. I was trying to do everything I could to avoid this animal, who seemed to know what my secret was. It took her literally about 3 or 4 months to begin to win me over and convince me that she was intellectually pretty much my equal. And at that point, I had to start asking myself, well, if you have this high of a regard for her, and if this was a woman who you would be looking forward to hanging out with, and she would like me, would I hold on to her if I knew a human like this? And the answer I came up with was, no, I wouldn't. And so I felt my sort of inhibitions just eroding. Meaning, I think that this was a woman, if this was a human, he would have been into it. So, okay, here we go. Dolly actually changed her courtship tactics through the course of the relationship. At first, she was gentle and forward, as you noted. But after that, she became very aggressive. She would throw herself on me, rub her vulva against my knees. Any protruding part of my body was fair game with her. She would masturbate on me, essentially. I had to watch out that no one was around to witness this. The next question. I was going to ask if anyone in the park noticed. Nobody picked up on it. I was slow to pick up on it, to be honest. I was not a virgin, but basically one. I wasn't either sexually very experienced or emotionally very experienced. That, I think, was the downfall of the relationship. In what way, the author asks. I made plans to go to college out of state at Evergreen in Washington State. I'd been going to New College of Florida, and I was dissatisfied, and Evergreen looked like an exciting, innovative type of place. But I was also frankly freaked out by the intensity of my involvement with the dolphin. I was having telepathic connections with the dolphin. Was the act of intercourse you talk about in the documentary the only one? Yes, but the telepathic connection was much more intense than the documentary represents. I was getting high a lot back then. Yeah, no kidding. And it began while I was high one night. The voice did not immediately announce itself as the dolphin trying to communicate with me. It was a voice that wanted to play games, 20 questions, that kind of thing. I was skeptical, but intrigued, and I couldn't make it go away. I couldn't tell it to shut up, but not to go. I could tell it to shut up, but not to go away. I wondered if I was going schizophrenic, but most schizophrenics have voices that are violent. Tell them to hurt themselves. The voice was playful and benevolent, and gradually I came to the conclusion that it was the dolphin. I'm assuming it sounded like Dan Marino. Folks, the choice had the personality you perceive from Dolly. Yes, it did. The thing was, I could go to see the real dolphin, and I might have a very puzzling and challenging experience with her. Once I took a girl I wanted to impress down there, and she thought swimming with the dolphin would be a wonderful idea. Dolly was the dolphin you could swim with at the park. The other ones were male, who were supposed to be more rambunctious. So I took a young woman down to see Dolly, who was basically towed her to the side of the far pool and tossed her out of the water. The dolphin was acting like a girlfriend. Yeah, she sussed what was up, and I saw she was appropriating me like this. That's what it was like when you finally had sex with her. What was it like? It felt like I was making love with the ocean itself. It felt like, first of all, that I had forgiven myself, gotten over my hesitations about finally giving her what she wanted. When I had that realization, then it just seemed there was this energy surging between us, growing more intense, bringing us both to orgasm. Sometimes some scientists say that female animals don't have orgasms, but I know she did. She vocalized it. Would you describe this as a great intimacy would you describe this as the greatest intimacy you've ever felt with anyone? Yeah. It stepped right over the species line. The dolphin, I know, was just as aware. She'd had to elude a male dolphin to get me. Does it feel lonely to you now that the height of intimacy in your life happened so long ago with a dolphin? Yeah, it does, but I had a very strong sense of intimacy with my second wife also. It was some kind of physical thing that happened when we were close together. Her smell or her electrical field. I thought that intimacy would sustain our relationship. In the long run, it did not. I've always felt cheated by intimacy ever since. You've been married twice. Was either of your wives jealous of Dolly? I don't think jealousy was a big part of the cause of this relationship to flounder. Or to fonder. I don't know. There were other circumstances. I read your bio that blah blah blah. It goes on, but he this guy had sex with a dolphin. So next time you think that your day is going badly or you're having trouble with love or intimacy, just remember that a guy named Malcolm had sex with a dolphin when he was 19, and it was the best sex of his life. Have a great day.